stole his first term as president. These absolute liars who run around trying to act like they're the protectors of democracy completely ruined it, tried to undermine it at every turn and at the highest levels with lies, with out and out lies that were really serious, and changed foreign policy and changed the course of history in this country and Trump's presidency. And there must be accountability. There has to be actual criminal accountability for those who lied. And I can't wait to see this administration.
I'm going to go to the next topic here, which is Adam's top topic, talking about Obama saying every man needs a gay friend. So Obama goes on his wife's podcast, okay? And they're sitting there having this conversation, and it opens, they covered a lot of different things. Right off the bat, they talked about the divorce. Hey, aren't we supposed to be getting a divorce and all this stuff? Just tell me if this seems like they woke up together in the same bed this morning, the last week, the last month, the last 90 days, or if they live in two different places. Just watch this real quick. Go ahead, Rob.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh yeah, really?
The rumor
Yes.
Barack Obama carried himself with the belief that he was beyond reach, an image crafted to appear flawless. To many, he was the charismatic leader celebrated as a symbol of hope and renewal. Yet, that polished exterior begins to crack the moment Patrick Bet-David and Megyn Kelly step into the conversation. They peel back the shine, exposing the overlooked struggles, the unfulfilled commitments, and the contradictions woven into his record, truths that no confident smile or eloquent speech can fully disguise.
Here's Trump just now. He was just caught on camera saying, well, we'll play both of them in succession. Let her rip.
That you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election and they got caught. And they should be very severe.
Today, the great Barack Obama, the hero of the left, the hero of the Democratic Party, the man who gets up and speaks, says, oh my God, Black Jesus is in the house today, right? He goes and campaigns, and this is the worst loss of his career, my opinion. This is what I think. Worst loss of his, I think the worst night of his life was November 5th, November 6th, midnight.
For a time, Barack Obama mastered the art of being all things to all people. He could step in front of any crowd, shape his words to match their hopes, and leave the impression that he truly understood them. It was the craft of a political chameleon. Yet, that carefully built illusion begins to fade when Megyn Kelly and Patrick Bet-David put it under scrutiny. Speeches that once felt groundbreaking start to echo like recycled sales pitches. Promises once carried with historic weight now seem fragile in hindsight. Obama worked tirelessly to project himself as a forward-thinking leader, but much of it feels more like polished branding than genuine conviction. And so the lesson lingers. What dazzles in the moment doesn't always stand the test of time.
Cherish the moment.
Barack
Like
Obama's
Sade.
sitting like that. Where is his junk? Where that it has to be mushed and
That's
mashed.
what you
It's not even
By the way.
That's what you interrupted Tom for? He's talking about his marriage?
Combo's saying something about
Unbelievable.
the challenge of marriage, but listen, you know who else is like that? Gavin Newsom.
Oh, hardcore.
They sit like that. That
It
takes
hurts.
heart.
That's a hurt.
Kelly starts by puncturing the glittering media shield that has long surrounded Obama. For years, he was spared the sharp criticism others endured, celebrated instead as the golden figure of American politics. She highlights how, behind the carefully polished image of a trailblazer, he quietly strengthened the very systems he once promised to dismantle. Under his watch, wars in the Middle East dragged on, Guantanamo Bay never shut down, and government surveillance swelled into something unrecognizable. Supporters clung to the idea that he was a reformer, but as Kelly points out, this wasn't reform at all. It was stagnation, neatly dressed up and sold with a smile.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
Look, these are the kinds of things that I just miss, right? So I don't even know this stuff's going on.
Right.
And then somebody will mention it to me and I'm all,
People think that they're on the outs because they're not always in the same room together, Maureen. That's what she would like people to believe. Like, she had what, 1 or 2 public appearances without him, and that's what led to.
Bet David doesn't just focus on policy, he digs into the psychology behind Obama's brand. He argues that Obama's strongest skill wasn't governance, but performance. Obama knew exactly how to repeat a message until it felt profound, when to pause for effect, and when to soften his tone to draw people in. It wasn't about leading as much as it was about captivating, and that performance came with a price tag. To many Americans, the show was mesmerizing, yet Bet David points out that the record tells another story, a foreign policy that deepened debt, widened divisions, and left the world less stable than when he first took office.
He does not look good. He does not look confident. He looks weak. He looks like he's having a hard time giving his argument to Charlemagne, like he's trying to defend, but he can't. How did you go from, well, at least I will go down as a president, and that whole mic drop on with Fallon or Kimmel, whichever one it was. And then it's like, well, there's a guy in here who believes, and it's at the dinner. I don't know if you guys remember that whole speech.
Oh yeah.
You will never be in the White House, and then boom, he gets the White House.
Together, they challenged the myth that Obama was ever a true revolutionary. Kelly recalls the soaring campaign themes of hope and change, then contrasts them with the reality. The same entrenched political elites held power, Wall Street still received its bailouts, and the revolving door of big money and government kept spinning. If anything, Obama's real talent was making continuity look like transformation. He didn't drain the swamp, he simply gave it a new shade and convinced half the nation that a new era had dawned.
It's amazing. Every word she says about Barack Obama is negative. I can't think of her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to...
The picture grows more complex when Bet David points to Obama's obsession with legacy. He argues that the former president often seemed more invested in safeguarding his image than tackling the gritty, uncomfortable work of real change. Many of his choices appear designed with future history books in mind, not the immediate consequences. This explains why he shied away from direct confrontations and why his presidency often looked like a careful balancing act meant to protect his reputation instead of dismantling the entrenched systems he once vowed to challenge. That focus may have preserved his standing with loyal supporters, but it also cost him chances that future generations will pay for. Kelly pushes the critique further, calling out the selective memory that keeps Obama's status intact. She lists scandals brushed aside because the media functioned more like his PR team than a watchdog. In her view, the real scandal wasn't just in Obama's actions, it was in the way an entire ecosystem worked to shield him from scrutiny. That isn't journalism, she argues, that's worship.
Obama slammed for whining about costs in the White House, okay? I don't know if you guys have seen this or not. This is her speaking with, is this the diaries of a CEO, right? So Rob, if you can play this clip, this is her talking about how expensive it was to live in the White House. Go for it.
It's expensive to live in the White House.
Yeah.
As many people don't know. I mean, much is not covered. You're paying for every bit of food that you eat. You're not paying for housing and the staff in it, but everything, even travel. If you're not traveling with the president, if your kids are coming on a Bright Star, which is the First Lady's plane, we have to play.
David then turns his attention to the economy, exposing the contradictions in Obama's narrative. Though he cast himself as a defender of the middle class, the gap between rich and poor grew wider under his watch. After the financial crash, Wall Street bounced back so strongly that bankers rewarded themselves with record bonuses, while everyday Americans struggled through years of hardship. Despite his promises to stand with the powerless, Obama's policies often favored corporations, lobbyists, and entrenched interests. David stresses how rarely this imbalance is acknowledged, since so many still cling to an idealized vision of his presidency. From there, Kelly shifts the focus outward toward global affairs, where the illusion unravels even further. Libya was reduced to chaos, Syria descended into a humanitarian nightmare, Afghanistan dragged on until the next president finally ended America's longest war. And here lies the greatest irony of all: a Nobel Peace Prize winner who left behind a legacy defined not by peace, but by unending conflict.
In 2019, a report was done that not one terrorist was allowed in. Now, I think it's probably wrong because it's, I want to take credit for it. It was my year.
Have you seen the terrorist stat?
Thousands.
Rob, pull up the clip with not this one, the other one, Rob, because you like good charts. I think you're going to love this chart. So this is the chart. I don't know if you've seen this or not. So this is the terrorist attacks, deaths, and injuries based on different presidents being there. If you go to 2008 to 2016, that's the Barack Obama era. Look what he did. He produced more terrorist attacks during his era. 16, you get elected. Look what happened.
Kelly circles back to how Obama's defenders frame his shortcomings. They blame Congress, the system, even bad luck, but rarely Obama himself. Yet true leadership isn't about excuses, it's about results. And if the only claim to greatness is that you looked impressive while failing, that isn't leadership, it's theater. Bet David argues this is the essence of Obama's legacy. Not transformation, not revolution, but performance. A presidency built more on image than on impact. Kelly then adds a sharper layer by examining Obama's role in the politics of race. He had promised to be the bridge between communities, the president who would heal divisions. Instead, tensions deepened, cities burned, trust fractured, and many communities felt abandoned. His words often soared with idealism, but they rarely landed with practical solutions, at times sowing more division than unity. Kelly concludes that the legend of Obama as a unifier doesn't match the reality. A true uniter doesn't leave the nation more fractured than they found it. Bet David ties this to a larger truth, the gap between illusion and reality. He compares it to remembering an incredible concert, but later realizing the recording sounded flat. With Obama, the mood mattered more than the substance. People remember the atmosphere, not the outcomes. But when you look back, say 10 years later, the question lingers. What really changed?
At this moment, go back to that day 10 years ago. What I think binds it together, all these different strands, a case upholding healthcare, a case declaring same-sex marriage part of our constitutional protections, of mourning. I think what pulls it all together is that no one person did any of that.
So he's sitting around on a June Thursday thinking about himself and his glory days. And to your point, Smug, I'm starting to warm up to Michelle Obama's POV. I feel like
Kelly shatters the romantic lens that has long shielded Obama from criticism. Behind the polished speeches and glowing media coverage lies a record marked by contradictions, missteps, and compromises. His policies, when scrutinized, tell a far different story than the myth his supporters helped construct. Strip away the illusion, and what remains is a politician who made sweeping promises, fulfilled some, but left others to clean up the fallout. By the end, Obama's reputation shines less like a legacy and more like stage lighting. Bright, captivating, but ultimately artificial. Bet David and Kelly cut through the nostalgia and excuses, arguing that Obama was never a visionary innovator. Instead, he was a finely packaged version of the same old Washington machinery. Kelly drives the point home. His hope and change mantra was nothing more than Washington's familiar rhetoric dressed up with Spotify-era flair. The difference wasn't substance, it was style. A smoother delivery, sharper suits, and a carefully constructed aura built more on presentation than on transformation.
more fuel on the fire that there's a potential, maybe a divorce or some sort of rockiness going on in the Obamas relationship. They both posted these mirrored, very choreographed Valentine's Day messages on X, but he was just seen at an LA, whatever that, it's the basketball team, the Clippers, thank you, game without her. And then on Tuesday, he was spotted eating out at a fancy dinner in Sherman Oaks with his both daughters, Malia and Sasha, but again, no Michelle.
No Michelle, Patrick Bet David says, twisting the knife as he makes his point. He shows that the so-called Obama cult wasn't harmless. It was powered by the very tools Obama once promised to dismantle. Despite presenting himself as an outsider, he leaned on the same insider strategies as the establishment he vowed to challenge. From rescuing Wall Street while Main Street suffered, to cashing in on lucrative speeches and book deals after leaving office, Obama followed the swamp's playbook to the letter. The only difference was presentation. Like a skilled magician, he dazzled the crowd with fireworks while quietly taking their wallet. And then comes foreign policy, the area where his halo fades fastest. Bet David and Kelly refused to excuse his role in Libya. What began as a so-called humanitarian mission left a once functional state in ruins, opening the door for terrorists to thrive. Under Obama, the U.S. didn't retreat from war, it mastered the art of waging it from a distance, delivering the illusion of peace while drones carried out the reality of destruction.
What came from the fact that I thought he could win. Because maybe way in the back of my mind, I was hoping that maybe he wouldn't, that this would be the last thing he would do. But I knew he had it in him to make this happen.
So, what are you thinking when you're getting this message? Like, what are you thinking in your mind? Because let's do data. Rob, can you type in Obama's net worth in 2007? What was Obama in 2007? 1.2 million, 1.3 million. Okay. So their net worth is, let's write this down. This is pre-White House. Their collective net worth was 1.3 million. Can you go to where their net worth was in 2016 when they're done being presidents? Okay. 2016. So their net worth, as expensive as it was, they went from being 1.3 million.
Megyn Kelly turns her focus to the domestic front, where Obama's failures are harder to gloss over. The Affordable Care Act, once touted as his crowning achievement, ended up as little more than a political football littered with broken promises. Remember his guarantee that you could keep your doctor and your plan? Kelly dismantles that claim, showing how millions lost coverage while costs surged. Far from being a triumph for the people, the policy became another government blunder that ultimately served the insurance industry. Yet, despite its patchwork flaws, the media continued to celebrate Obama as a bold reformer. Bet David then steps in with a broader critique. To him, Obama's real legacy isn't policy at all, it's division. Instead of healing America's racial wounds, he left them deeper and rawer than before. Communities fractured, trust eroded, and unity slipped further away. By this point, Kelly and Bet David unite in their assessment. The media wasn't just supportive, it was protective. They showered Obama with uncritical praise, dismissed legitimate criticism, and branded dissenters as either racist or irrational.
Speaking of Barack Obama, he decided to drop a post on X today, and I thought, okay, maybe in the wake of the Pete Hegseth presser, he's going to say something like, no matter how you feel about the Iranian strike, hats off to our, boys in blue, our guys in the bombers. He went a different way. This is what it was.
I'm curious how you're thinking about this eulogy specifically in the moment and all the tensions that you just brought out.
I didn't even want to talk. I was so mad. Part of the reason I think I ended up having anything to say at that moment was when I heard some of the victims' families forgive the shooter. And I thought, all right, let's see if maybe this is a way America.
What your script highlights is the difference between perception and performance, and this distinction is central to Obama's political legacy. The analytical takeaway is that Obama perfected the art of narrative politics, governing not so much through policy execution, but through a mastery of image, symbolism, and cultural resonance. His presidency was presented as transformational, but when the lights dimmed, his most lasting achievements rested less on systemic reform and more on the aura he cultivated. Netflix deals, the Obama Presidential Center, and carefully timed public statements illustrate this pivot from governance to brand preservation. For critics, this trajectory underscores the idea that Obama's true gift was packaging political charisma as moral authority. Yet, this gift also became his greatest liability. The more detached he seemed from the rough edges of policymaking and the raw urgency of crises, the more his leadership appeared ornamental. Unlike Trump, whose chaos was constantly scrutinized, Obama enjoyed insulation, journalistic reverence, Hollywood appeal, and bipartisan nostalgia that blurred the line between his actual record and his projected legacy. But once the sheen fades, so too does the myth. What remains is the paradox of a leader celebrated as historic, yet increasingly remembered as conventional. Someone who excelled at winning hearts, but often fell short on transformative results. The revelation is not simply that Obama was shielded, but that the shield itself was the point, an elaborate construct that turned him into an icon rather than a reformer. When stripped of that, the public begins to see a man who mastered the game, but never rewrote it, a statesman more fluent in branding than in the gritty mechanics of change. In the end, Obama's story warns us how easily charisma can eclipse substance, leaving brilliance reduced to performance.